going to call to order this meeting, February 18, 2020, of the Township of Springfield Zoning Board of Adjustment. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on December 12, 2019 in the local Source and the Star Ledger, the official newspapers for the Township of Springfield, for the year 2019, and posted in the Annex Building on December 13th, 2019. We stand to salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Mark Cunningham.
Here.
Mr. Stephen Hochstein.
Here.
Mr. Daniel Poltrock. Mr. Harris Loffer.
Present.
Mr. Stephen Furstenbaum.
Present.
Ms. Kara Greco.
Here.
Mr. Raj Shahada.
Here.
Vice Chair Dave Schnur.
Here.
Chairwoman Jody Cohen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes from the January 21st, 2020 meeting? Are there any questions? Can I have a motion to?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
If I wasn't here, I abstain. I abstain.
Yes, as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and on to resolutions from the January 2020 meeting. The resolution that we have on the agenda is for application 2019-24 Mark and Rima Vasserman, 5 Winfield Way.
Move to approve. Second.
Vice Chair Schnur.
Yes.
Mr. Loffer.
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham.
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein.
Yes.
And Mr. Furstenbaum.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. And we can move on to the applications. The first application that we have on the agenda is application 2020-2. John and Michelle, forgive me, Milenchevek, 38 Treetop Drive. This is a application for lot coverage height and accessory structure for a retaining wall. Please step forward.
Is your wife going to testify also? I'm going to ask you both to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
Each of you please state your name and address.
And Michelle Milentievich, 38 Treetop Drive, Springfield, New Jersey.
Thank you. Try to keep your voices up and speak into the mic if you could.
Okay.
Make sure the board can hear you.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about the application and why you're here?
Sure. What we want to do is build a retaining wall on the back of our house where our backyard is. This is, when we bought a house in 2015, we didn't think of it, we didn't know, there was just full of weeds and just greenery. And when the fall came in, we just realized it was like a big drop. Then again, we didn't know anything about it until we started noticing since 2015 that land is eroding slowly. It's very dynamic. I have some pictures to show, and it's pretty big drop. Goes from, I don't know, 6 to 7 feet all the way to about 13 feet drop. I guess when they were building the house, they just bulldozed the ground, leveled it, but they never took care of the perimeter of the property. So this land right now is a field soil, just erodes slowly over time. We have one of the old surveys that was probably 45 to 50 years old. There was like a wooden fence at the edge of the property that fell down, eroded. It was like 16 feet away from property line, from Sokol Court to where the wooden fence was. Right now, it's 23 feet away without anything. Meaning that for the last 45 to 50 years, there was erosion about 7 feet of the yard. So, it's problematic, we cannot let the kids play, kids love to go down the hill, and just, it's liability, just not just for our kids, but also for other kids as well. So, we wanted to, level the ground, fill up the soil, and bring it to the level of the rest of the yard.
And this wall is gonna be how far back from the back of your house?
The wall we want to do is we want to put the wall on as close as possible to our property lines, within our property lines, of course. The reason being it costs a lot of money to build something like this, so we just want to get to maximize our yard, given how much we're investing. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile. Just let it be.
What's in back of you?
So, yeah, I can show you.
Is there a residence or is it the
No,
golf
it's-
course?
It's just the back of the golf
It's the golf
so
course.
yeah.
There's no residence.
No.
So, this is the
No, that's,
Right.
aerial view. I took my son's drone. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to fly, but this is above the roof, and this is the pictures about it. So this is 44 Treetop Drive. This is our neighbor. Actually, our neighbor was initially going to build with us this retaining wall because they also have a problem with some land erosion, but because of the financial reason they stopped. This dotted line over here, this is the fence, chain link fence with the boulder saw. This is the service road that's on the boulder side, and this is where the sewer line was, I think, right there. So this is one side of the,
I'm sorry, before you go on, just for the record, you included a number of pictures in your application.
Yes.
This is not included in your
this is
application,
not.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
This is more like an aerial view of,
So we're going to designate the pictures that you didn't have in your application as A1
okay.
for an exhibit.
Okay.
That way the record is clear.
Got it.
So this is a aerial picture of your backyard
Yeah,
showing
looking
the,
towards the left. So this is the left corner of the yard.
okay, thank you.
And this is the middle of the yard showing erosion, like all of this is new, you see here, the like topsoil is gone, and then just the rocks get bare. Once the rocks get bare, then water comes in and sort of pushes those rocks down the hill. That's pretty much, that's typical sign of erosion. We tried numerous solutions how we can stop this without spending a lot of money, and we have to build from the bottom of the fence in order to retain for stability of the wall and everything, because it's very sloping like this. If you start building the wall like this, it's not much for the wall to rest on the bottom, so it needs to be on the footing. It has to have a footing on the bottom.
When you tell us that this is a typical sign of erosion, what background have you that enables you to say that? How do you come to that knowledge?
Google.
But nothing, no education from your end?
No, but I was just reading about it, how land erodes, and this is pretty much what's going on. This is the grass, and then grass goes away, then you have like little pebbles, and then that's gone, and then you have big rocks stay like this and they roll down. Pretty intuitive.
How long have you been at the property?
Since 2015.
And have you seen erosion?
Yes. Yeah. This is all new. This wasn't before.
Can you just point out there where the property line is in this
Yes, the
photo?
property line is a chain link, like fence right here,
And your wall is where? Your proposed
the wall
wall?
would be.
And especially in relationship to that chain link fence that you just cited. but I'd like to, but going back to the
Yeah.
visual,
Yeah.
I could see I see the chain link fence. Can you arrow where your wall is,
It would be
or where it will be?
right around here at the bottom of the film. They would make the flat area footing, probably like a foot and a half away from the chain link. And they would start building the wall to that.
Live in a terrace, sort of?
Yes. Yes, so because the stability of the wall doesn't go straight, it goes like this. So each layer is offset by quarter of an inch.
That wouldn't be, the terrace would be like 2 6-foot walls. That would be terracing. So if it's just a canter to the wall, just leaning.
Correct.
So, no, right now we have a single wall
Yeah,
that's
it's a single wall, yeah.
14 feet high at one corner.
Right.
The question is, the allowable fence height, wall height would be 6 feet. So would you be willing, because they're terracing 2 6-foot walls with that? So 6-foot wall, a little bit of grade, another 6-foot wall.
Correct. Terracing costs more, and you need to, the way I was explained, you need to go, if your first wall is like 6 feet, you need to go 6 feet in and start building it again. So I would lose lots of this yardage just to get to the top surface. So the decision was made, at least for us, it was more logical to build one wall, and actually it's more stable like this, to build one wall from the footing all the way up to this area, and then we have grass there.
The proposed, well, you have a proposed dry well, as you call it, you're calling it a seepage tank.
Yeah.
What made you decide to put in a seepage tank? What was the advantage?
Well, seepage tank is because my whole property, even where the house is sloped like this. So all the gutters, all the gutter lines go under the ground, and it's sort of like a French drain, so it drain slowly.
Where is that on the picture, would you say? Are there 2 or 3 of them, or is there?
They're ending somewhere here. So what we are planning to do that, so what we were told, initially we were thinking just to put those lines only out through the wall, to the daylight. But the engineer said we cannot do this, so we need to sink all the water from the roof in our yard.
And then if there was an overflow from the seepage pit, where would that go? Because I'm concerned about concentrating the flow of stormwater. That's
Correct,
my
yes.
concern.
So my understanding would go up, like there's that little safety cap on the top of the surface, so if it gets filled up, it goes up and goes on the surface of the.
That would be something we would be looking for. We don't want to have a concentrated pipe creating more disruption in one place or another, that kind of thing. So has the soil been tested? Do you know if the soil can accept the water?
Yes, actually, engineer came in, so they took the sample before they engineered the wall, and so that was the decision that they didn't see any issues about it.
There would be a fence at the top of the wall?
Yeah, yes, that's definitely, because the height of the wall is gonna be on this side, probably like 7 to 8 feet, all the way to the other side, it will be like 14 feet, if we need to have it, because of our kids. That's a 4-foot,
Have you talked to your neighbors about the proposed wall?
yes, actually, my neighbor on this side, he knows exactly what's going on. Yeah, my neighbor Dan is over here, so, yeah, on the other side, there's definitely informed them,
Okay. I have a question. Why do you need a lot coverage variance? Is it because of the area of the wall is?
yes, because it's, I'm assuming the block, cement block itself covers the area, and that's.
But you're not, where you're filling in is gonna be vegetation, it's not gonna be pavement or patios or anything, it's all gonna be grass that you're proposing.
And that's something that very rarely we don't take into account as there's a law, the landscaping.
Right, that's why I was a little confused by the.
So I just want to clarify, I don't believe it's a variance, I think it's a pre-existing non-conforming condition on the site, based on the zoning table that they provided, so they're not doing anything to their home or to the existing impervious coverage as far as other improvements, like the house or the driveway, it's just what exists today, that's already a pre-existing, it's not a new variance condition, it's a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
Just to be clear, the variance is what, for the height of the fence? It's not, the table's not filled out, so I'm not exactly sure what it is actually that you're.
No, they're in the, we were discussing, they're in the S-120 zone, we were just looking over the requirements that were required for that zone. And I agree with Catherine that it's probably the way it was filled out, just the existing nonconformity, so they reference. We have to go to actually the zoning book to see what the zoning requirements are for that S-120, single family residential. This lot area, lot width, so everything complies as far as you know. I did go through the actual.
I was told it's going to be 3 different variances, so that's what we apply to.
So you talked to Mr. Disco,
Yeah.
and what was his analysis of the wall?
Well, his analysis of the wall, he didn't have any objections in terms of the wall. He was more concerned where this water is going to be sunk from the roof, because you cannot dump the water to any neighbor. You know, even
Right, I
if
agree.
there's full support and then nobody lives there and so on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And just because we want to build on by our property line, because of the lot coverage, I think that's one of these. And the other thing is that because the wall is taller than 8 feet, 6 feet tall, then there's not a variance for that.
Now, the roof leaders and gutters now, do they have an overflow? Do they just go to a splash block or something right now?
Where they hit their French drain from the beginning all the way, they're stopping somewhere here, so they're.
We do have circumstances where we have pipes that go into a dry well, but back at the house, there's like, that's where the overflow is. So if the water can't get to the dry well, it comes out near the house and then it goes over land.
Correct, that's what we're planning to do.
I would ask just for a detail when we're all done, but I haven't seen a detail for that.
Correct, we own the calculations for this, but just to get the engineer to get it done within a week,
Yes.
it's challenging. But yes, we have this, that we need to do.
It's a pretty standard arrangement from that standpoint, as far as have you ever, maybe you saw like an inverted Y just before it goes under the ground in the house, and that's basically the backup overflow, the dry well is full.
But can we just come back to like what we're actually voting on? It's just not clear to me, like, talk about impervious surfaces, and you said that's not relevant here, the height of the wall. I don't know what what are we approving here? It's just not filled out, so.
It would just be for the wall and the fence on top of the wall. It's my understanding, that's the application.
Well, my understanding, we don't even, according to my district, we don't even have to put a fence because there's no ruling on
Right,
on the
there
fence.
is. You
So,
don't have to.
we need to do it for our kids' safety, we need to do
I
it for
agree.
that.
I think you can't have a wall without a safety, with a guardrail. I don't think that's allowed for safety.
But anyway, so we'll do the fence, there's no question.
That's like from my standpoint, a non-negotiable, there will be a fence.
Yes.
Does it make sense to put one now because there's no flat
Yeah, you
space?
cannot put anything here, if you put something, it's gonna fall down one way. So why invest something that?
Oh, there's more property by itself, but it's that fence so far into the yard.
So,
Is it the height that
Yeah,
we're
it's the
getting to
height.
then?
So here,
It's the right-hand part.
yeah, so, okay, so this is the old, survey, so you can see the 16, that was like wood fence over here. Right now, all of this just fell down, you can see this, all of this is just disintegrated and down the hill, and it's right now it's like about 23 feet, so this is what I want to mention, about 7 feet loss of yardage over
When did that fall?
When we came, it was already there and something.
So I'm looking through your application and I'm seeing certain things that are labeled 38 Treetop, and certain things are labeled 800 Shoes Landing Road. So my question is, it's toward the back of the package, starting on page 25. I'm questioning, you know, just based on my supplied,
I think that's the address of the engineer that Asbury.
but it's under the project name.
Yeah,
Which is
so-
why I've got a question.
So, what engineer did, he already had the height and the length of the wall he needed, as opposed to recreating the whole thing again, he just inserted it back. So that's the reason that, 3 different wall heights, that the middle one is, actually has a different address.
Okay.
My only other question is, to build this wall
Yeah.
and put the foundation, the footings in for the wall, unless you build on your neighbor's property, you're gonna have to be inside a certain amount of distance on your
Correct.
property.
We need to make the footing, and our thinking is between 1 and 2 feet away from the property line, and this is where the wall is gonna start going up. And so, see, the wall doesn't go straight, it goes like this, because of stability. So each layer is offset by 1/4 of an inch, then it goes up.
So, if we, choose to, approve this, I imagine that the engineer's gonna have to, you know, you're gonna have to stake it out and make sure you're not in a neighbor's
The
property.
engineering department had like kind of the other fences that we had. So that would be the engineering department. I haven't personally been going out to fences, but we have had that stipulation before.
Yeah, that's all, we had, our surveyors come 4 times and making sure, just because, when they measured the elevation of the ground, because there was a lot of, soil, it's not virgin soil, so we have to dig this, you know, to figure out what is the height of the wall. And we had it staked out.
Well, even to be fair to somebody going out there, you need something to measure from, and a surveyor is really the only person that can say where something is.
Right.
We can measure off a house or something like that, but it's still not official unless it's done by a surveyor.
And I just want to clarify, the application package did include a structural design for the retaining wall. And in addition to that, I don't know if it was separately done, but the evergreen landscaping plan shows that the retaining wall he's describing off the property line is actually located about 1 to 2 feet off the property line. So I assume that these plans are, when they go for permits, the township will overlook what's been submitted and verify it when they stake it.
Right, there's a stake, the stake there, they're metal ones, they're in the ground, so there's kind of a little tap, and they also have those little wooden ones. So we have to do this kind of ways.
And the building department will look at the actual wall calculations themselves, so make sure the wall itself is proper.
And then just to clarify again, as far as what the variance is before this board to be approved, I believe it is the height of the retaining wall that is in question. As far as what the agenda says showing lot coverage for the site, that's a pre-existing non-conforming condition. I looked through the S-120 zoning regulations and compared it to the survey they provided. It appears that they conform with the setbacks for the front yard, side yard, and rear yard, their lot width, their lot depth, all complies. The only thing is there's a pre-existing non-conforming condition for their building coverage and their lot coverage. They're not changing anything about it. It's something that exists today. So it's not a new variance. It's just we take note of it when there's anything before a board that something exists that is in conflict with the zoning code.
And what does the ordinance say about the permitted height of a retaining wall?
I believe it's 6 feet.
It's 6 feet.
That's 6 feet from the level of the
Consider it
ground?
like it was
or-
a
I
fence.
mean,
That's where I'm a little.
This instance here, right, there's a steep drop off, right? So is it start at ground level, or it starts?
No, they would start at the toe of the slope, and then the representative, they would be building the wall and then filling it back in, so they would have a
Right.
flat yard. Then they put a fence, then you'd have the difference between the, say, the golf course property and their property.
I was told we only think about the visible wall because there's 2 layers of bricks or cement blocks there in the ground. You can see them. so because of the stability of that, so you say it's only visible part.
Okay, so what is the visible part if we're on your back deck? What is it?
The first two the first two layers are not visible, so everything above it, so I think it's like 8 or 10 inches each block, so first 20.
But what I'm saying,
is not visible.
the whole purpose of the wall is to bring the backyard up to grade level.
Correct.
Okay, so basically, when you're looking out from the backyard, you're not, now you're looking at flat land.
You'll see the top
So
of the
the actual
wall.
height of
You won't see the back.
the height of the wall is actually concealed by the fact that it's
Yes.
going down on a slope. So, to me, that from a
seeing
height
the
restriction, so it's not, coming up 6 feet to bring it to grade, then another 6 feet to bring it above grade.
You just see the.
Just see the
fence.
bottom, the bottom of the wall.
Yeah, you
And
will
a
just
fence
see
for
that
safety.
wall.
Yeah, and the face above that, yes. But the wall itself, the height is really just to bring it to
Exactly.
grade.
From our house, we wouldn't see anything, but actually, people from Walkersville Court, they came in. There's a couple of things they were worried about, like, first, are their players are going to be able to see the wall? That's number one. Number two is it's gonna somehow, ruin their image. And number three, they want to make sure they have fence on the top of our wall, because they don't want somebody to fall in their property, so they're liable for that. But those are the main comments.
What were your answers to
Yes,
those
I was
inquiries?
gonna say, what were their answers?
What's
first?
that?
But as far as, what were the answers to the first two? Can you see the wall from their
No,
court?
you can't, because this is up in the woods, and you can see this, and even right now, the whole court is right all the way down below, you can't see it. So even with there's nothing, there's no leaves or something, but when leaves come in, it's just like a wall, a green wall, there's nothing, you can't see it.
Did you ever find any golf balls along that
Yes.
back?
Yes.
There's about 850 feet of wooded area between the edge of their property line and the closest portion of the golf course.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's also like a drop, there's you can't see our house if you look from the bottom of the support.
And these are regular stone blocks, it's not gonna be some
Yeah.
outrageous color, right?
Personally, I don't have a problem with what you're doing, just I didn't understand what the variances were, that's all.
I'm still puzzled myself.
So it was really just the variance for the height, and then that the drainage issue be made sure that it doesn't cause any problems. And based on the distance away from the course, it's really just protection against corrosion from whatever is being installed.
Yeah, we cannot build although I question why do they have chain link right on the property line, so Walkersville Golf Court has right on and actually we told them that they're encroaching probably 6 inches, but that's perfectly fine. We're not gonna worry about inches, but they do have it right on the property line, it's not offset or anything like that, so we need to sort of pull back because of that.
And that's fairly typical. I mean, most of the surveyors are out there, especially then you have the fence people, and I'm sure they just wanted to border their property.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I guess another thing is that the town engineer will sign off on the secret bit.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a condition of.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a condition, that, the sketch was made, this is what I was able to get it, prior to creating packages, for the board meeting, but yes, my fiscal said that we need to have calculations of that, for that.
Any other questions? All right, before we deliberate, are there any members of the public that wish to speak?
Hello, everyone. Dan Levy, 34 Treetop Drive, to the right of the house. First, I think my neighbors have the absolute right to regain the property that they've lost and then stabilize it so that they can keep it for as long as they live there and people after them. So I'm very much in support of this project and their ability to do that. Mike Disco actually came by today because I had several questions about degradation taking place in my own backyard. You know, you can't really fight Mother Nature very long. And quite frankly, in my opinion, I think Baltusrol should be doing more for all of the residents on the left side of Treetop Drive to help us keep our properties in our backyard. So in discussions with Mike, we also took a look at the corner that my neighbors are talking about, where the highest point would be the 14-foot part of the wall. First of all, like, I know you had asked about if they had shared this with the neighbors. It will not be an eyesore. It's not going to be a concern visually because it's very wooded back there, and that part of our backyard we don't spend much time in. Lots of trees, lots of bushes. But in speaking to Mike, the question, and he made a recommendation that I come here today and just get further clarification on that space between the wall and our fence. And when that gets built up, will that lead to, you know, a more fixed area as gravity pulls the rainwater down in between the wall and our fence? Will that yield a greater rate of erosion, and should that be a consideration or a concern? I'm not saying that it will or that it should, but we just want to be wary of what's going to happen on our property, right, from this project, and just get a really clear understanding. It's not throwing up a red flag to suggest that this be denied. If I lived at 38, I would be in front of you asking for the same approvals. So it's just really an understanding and appreciation, just a close look at what's going to happen when that 14-foot wall goes up in that kind of valley where my property ends and 38 begins.
Now, if there was a stone swale put along there, would you be adverse to that?
I would not be adverse to that at all. So it's two things. Number one, does it require anything? I don't know. I'm not the expert. Mike seemed to think it's worth at least having a discussion. Second of all, whatever the solution might be, the drain pipe, and you know what you had recommended, any of those things would be fine if they resolve or avoid any sort of problem. Yeah.
And part of it might be after a year or so, if the wall does go up, it may start, if it shows signs of corrosion, that's when you can do something about it.
Exactly. There could be a contingency where Mike or someone else just checks and set, you know, at the end of the project, and then in a year from now, if there's, you know, notable degradation that should be addressed, then you know, we'd be fine with that. It may not require anything. Like I said, the only reason why I'm here is is to suggest that part be looked at and considered in the project, because we're all fighting Mother Nature, and it's really tough and it's really expensive, and that's the reason why I asked Mike to come over, is really to primarily look at what we have in our backyard and see, is this going to last another year, another 20 years? We have a setup back there that's designed to keep our backyard in our backyard, but every year when we open that pool, I'm expecting a gigantic crack, and I think, you know, eventually it's going to be the water hazard on hole number 11. It's really concerning up there, and I'm not even trying to be funny. You know, we spend a lot of money on our homes up there. We pay a ton of taxes up there. Not to say that other people don't have the right anywhere else in town to retain their property, but we're up against it up there, and so we're, you know. So anyway, that's it. I hope the project gets approved. I really, you know, it's a great family, great kids, great neighbors, and you know, they definitely deserve to have 100% of the property they paid for. And the pictures don't lie. No offense to your question about, you know, do you need a PhD to identify erosion? I mean, common sense will show you that their property needs help, as do pretty much everyone on Treetop Drive. So, it's really all I have for you today.
Great.
Can I just, I'm sorry, I should have sworn you in at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you've given has been the truth?
Yes, I do.
And I think you gave it, but just state your name and address.
Yes, Daniel Levy, 34 Treetop Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so maybe to address this, and we spent 3 years thinking about this because we don't want to have failure on our property. So this is 34 Treetop Drive. This is Dan's property on that side, right hand side. And this is the slope right now, you see it of the yard. Alright, so, you know, hard rain or something, the water doesn't have time to be absorbed by soil. Should straight into either ditch or his property. Alright, so with the wall over here, we would elevate this part. So meaning that, or whatever, how it is like this towards slope, how we are sloped towards 34 Treetop Drive, it would be raised up and slope towards the focus support, because we still need to have a slope for water to go somewhere. And you go to it. So in terms of that, we discussed this with the engineer. Actually, the 98% of the things that is happening right now, naturally, it would be sort of raised like this, so that actually would be sort of channeling water this way.
Just for the record, because I don't believe this picture is in your application, can you just describe what it shows for the record?
Exactly, I was rushing to put something together, and so this is what I did later.
Okay, but tell me what this picture shows.
This picture shows entrance on my right-hand side of the yard. So this is the beginning of the wood fence. This is from my driveway, looking at right-hand side of my yard. Over, you know, this is because how yard looks like. It sloped like this and it looks like this.
Okay, thank you.
So over there is downhill and chain link fence of the bolt support is down below, and the right side is 43.
And I'm sorry, do you have this on like a thumb drive that you would be able to leave? Okay. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak?
Can I ask this
Yes.
question? Is there anything that we should address as far as Mr. Levy's concerned next door, as far as anything that we would approve?
If there's gonna be a channel created that wasn't there before, we just would like to make a stone swale or something to account for the water that would be concentrated.
That's what we're planning to do, sort of to channel between two properties, between the wall and the.
Right, you may have to use a stone swale in that case to prevent erosion, because if you can't grow grass, you just don't want it to be a muddy mess.
Right, my understanding, they'll put something that's impermeable, so you put rocks and sort of the water would go.
That sounds like a decent.
It seems like there's one of the things that we would need to be able to consider is an engineer's report, which I don't see here on what would happen with the you know, the water filtration. And so I guess to Mr. Levy's point, I mean, we certainly, I think there's probably other questions that come up out of that without having an expert to say that this problem is actually going to be addressed. You know, we're taking your word for it, but you know, I think that I would feel more comfortable if there was an expert testimony as to that it is being dealt with the right way, which I don't see here.
Correct. So when we were putting this package together, we couldn't go back and make changes. Something along those lines was made by Michael Disco, and we're going to address this because we cannot proceed unless we address all water management in the area. So from that perspective, you know, we're fine. It's just going to take some time for us to do the drawings, calculations, and so on. But the reason we didn't bring somebody here because we spent a lot of money just to create plans like this. That's very elaborate, and we still don't know if they're going to be approved or not. We just still have to contain our costs.
I understand. I think it's one of the key elements here, right? I mean, it seems like the wall itself is pretty straightforward. It's the ramifications of having the wall, where the water goes, which is an unanswered question, at least from my perspective. I mean, I would feel more comfortable if there was something that we know for sure that putting this wall up, you're gonna address wherever the water's gonna go, and it seems like,
It's almost sort of like a residential development where they have a dwelling proposed and they still have to do a plot plan. So we can conceptually approve something, but the details are in the plot plan version. We have the grades and the drainage report or the soil analysis at the time of construction when they have the equipment moving around, that kind of thing. So certainly at this stage, you have an engineer put together the report saying that the dry well is sized for a certain storm. It has overflows that we talked about as far as the details for that.
But I think really what you're getting at also too is the impact of the wall itself, the construction of the wall itself, and how that impacts the flow of water when it comes to rainfall.
Yeah, and I think what Mr. Holloway is trying to say is that at this stage, the board can approve the variance before here, and then create a condition as part of that approval in a resolution will protect you, because then you have the township engineer looking at those very questions. You know, saying that otherwise, if you don't produce the condition, they wouldn't have to look at them. So if you produce a condition of approval that says you must look at the water impact, you must produce an engineer's report showing that there is or isn't any water impact and whatever mitigation measures. And that kind of packages everything up in case there isn't a water impact shown by their engineer report, then they wouldn't have to put in this swale. So I think that's the protection measure. If you feel comfortable approving this plan, that's how you would go about it.
Right, and then prior to any permitting, it would be approved by the town engineer.
Oh, just one quick thing I forgot, and it relates to this.
Can
well.
you
Oh,
just-
should I come up? Sorry.
Yeah, just say your name again so the
Yeah,
record.
Dan Levy, 34 Treetop Drive. Just one other comment Mike Disco had made earlier today that I think is relevant to your point about the space for the stone swell. He had mentioned that the contractor had recently asked if he can get closer to the fence, which was something Mike actually denied in the event that something would need to go in between to address the water. So just as the plans
And
get updated.
that's a typical detail, something like that would be thinking about the whole situation. So it's a fair comment. Thank you.
So I think that what I mean to say is that hopefully there's some comfort in knowing that the town engineer is a professional who will have the wherewithal to understand any kind of engineering issues that might arise as part of this.
Any other comments by the board? I see the safety issues. I understand them. I see the necessity for this. I'm inclined myself to approve the request on the condition that there is a submission made regarding the impact, the drainage impact, and approval by the town engineer prior to receipt of any of your permits. Anyone?
You said it?
So do we need a motion?
Yes, if everyone's in
okay.
agreement, we can have a motion.
So I would like to move the approval of this project with the conditions that there is an engineering report to address water flow and storm impact, things of that nature, as well as I would like to see an updated proposal with correct addresses, just to make sure that information hasn't changed. And what was the second condition? Or was that it?
First is the impact analysis to the engineer. The second, updated. I do not think there was a third condition.
Then that's my motion.
I think there was a.
And that there's a fence on top of the wall.
Yeah, and that there is a fence on top of the wall.
Yes.
That's given, that's, we already have it in a drawing that, you're gonna use.
This may, it may be a part of that, but I think there was a specific request that the safety outlet for the water be closer to the house rather than
Right. there was
in the middle of the
detail
yard.
from the engineer, detail for the stormwater overflow from the roof leader.
That condition as well.
Yes, so that's part of this, there's a drain pit, how do they call it, drain pit or something, or,
Well, you have the
dry well, something like that.
Right, it's way back at the house. is where
Correct,
you
correct,
have-
exactly. So this is where we're gonna channeling all the roof water that's coming in.
Okay.
It's not be dumping to the bulk support.
Yes. It'll be a condition of the approval.
Correct, it's already drawn, it just needs, we need calculations.
Yes.
In terms of the,
Before we get to a vote, I mean, if you're asking to see a revised copy of the application, I suggest we table this, because what if it comes back and you voted
It
yes?
wouldn't be revised in that you would see the plans. Any revised plans
Yeah,
would go to the
go on,
town
yeah.
engineer, would have to be updated to show the correct address. I think that's what he needs, and that's usually.
Well, it's not just the correct address, it's that the information matches up as well.
Yes, and so I think the condition should actually be any revised plans submitted to the town engineer for approval, resolution compliance shall have the
I mean,
appropriate.
I'm totally open to tabling this, but, you know, from what I've heard, is there seems to be a consensus to approve.
Well, I'll second the approval with the conditions that were made.
Would you restate the motion, please?
Sure. There was a motion to approve this project upon the conditions of an engineering report to be reviewed by our township engineer, to look at water safety, to look at stormwater drainage. There's also the condition that there's an updated charts, because and the information synthesizes. And the third condition would be a fence on top of the wall for safety.
I'll second it again.
I'm waiting for the chair to give me the go. But thanks for signing.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve, hang on.
I'd rather see it. I'd rather table. I'd like to move, if at all possible, to table this, put the cart, I think we're putting the cart before the horse in the vernacular, and that it may very well be a viable project. I just haven't seen enough to make this happen.
Okay. I agree. I think that
Can I withdraw my motion?
I'll second it.
I'll
second it, too.
I
Just need a second.
I need a second.
I second it.
Now you can discuss.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, motion to table is not discussed, you just take a vote.
Excellent. Motion to table, second, and let's take a,
Who made the motion? Did you?
No,
Mr.
first.
Kirschenbaum?
Yes.
And who seconded it?
I did.
Now I'm roll calling this. Okay, Mr. Furstenbaum?
In favor of the tabling, I'm not sure the
Yes.
phraseology.
That's what I'm,
but-
yeah, I'm roll calling that, correct?
yes.
Vice Chair Schnur,
Table.
Mr. Cunningham,
Table.
Mr. Hochstein,
Table.
Mr. Lawfer,
Table.
Ms. Greco,
The opposite of table.
okay? And Chairwoman Cohen.
Table.
Motion passes to table and carry
Yes, to the following
to the
meeting.
following meeting. No notice.
Should we inform the applicant exactly what we're?
Yes, that's what I
Are you
wanted to
required
do.
for the next meeting?
The 17th,
I'm sorry,
March 17th.
okay, just so it's in the record. Carried to the meeting of March 17th, that means you don't have to renotice or publish.
And what we're looking for is your engineer to put together an impact analysis for the water. And we are also looking for an update to what was submitted with correct information, or just, I guess, confirmation that this is the correct information that should be included. Right. Right,
Right, and I think also is to fill in the rest of this variance table, just so we know what it is that we're.
correct. Okay.
Okay, so are we gonna get like a written,
You can call me tomorrow.
Okay.
and I'll go over it.
thank you.
I just
Thank you very
want
much.
to make sure I submitted impact, engineer with an impact analysis for the water and updated plan with correct information, and there was a third thing.
And updated plans with the correct calculations,
And the clear zoning table.
and yes, a clear zoning.
It's incomplete.
I think the open question is really that the plan that you're putting in place is gonna deal with wherever water, right, coming up your house, where it's gonna go, right, all of those things that we can very clearly see what that is. I don't think that the matter is related to the wall anymore, now it's related to the water issues around that.
And if you could bring, or file with the secretary, hard copies of the 3 pictures that you showed that weren't in the application, that would be helpful also. Thank you.
So this means we won't be able to proceed to anything until a month?
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you. She'll set up. Our second application is application 2020-1 302-308 Morris Avenue LLC. Preliminary and final site plan and a use variance for residential use. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Bergen, you can show me. And Mr. Hill, as you know, I have a conflict with anything involving you, and so I get an early night.
It's nothing personal.
Definitely nothing personal. So I will be recused. I could always learn. Take care, Steve.
Thanks for coming out. Good evening, board members. Steve Hale. See you all again. We're here for an application for redevelopment of a site right here on Morris Avenue. I think as the board is well aware from what your professionals distributed, we were before the planning board on a very similar application approximately 2 years ago. Took some time to get some other permits because we need DEP and those type of approvals. And then my client, Chris, and he'll explain a little bit more in detail, thought that he would like to introduce a residential component to this project. Generally, it's the same type of project. He's worked with the downtown committee with Beth Lippman to address the aesthetics and obviously his company being landscaping, he's going to have it first-rate landscaping associated with this project. By the way, I would like to thank Jen for sending over the reports from your professionals, getting it to us this morning in time for our corporation call this evening. So essentially, this is repurposing the building that's there, having a slight addition to the existing, what's a somewhat poor condition home, adding the structure to the rear for storage of the equipment for the landscaping business, and then again have a fence and sheds. Or before, again, this board as opposed to the planning board because of the residential component. And again, we've received the comments from professional engineers. We don't have any problem complying with those. And Mr. Montana, who I know is before this board on numerous occasions, can explain that in more detail. But what we'd like to do first is have the applicant testify, give a little background. By the way, when we were before the planning board a year and a half or so ago, Mr. Vanciella did not yet own the property. He now has purchased the property, so he's the property owner. And again, looking forward to locating his business at this location. And we're going to have our architect describe the changes that are going to be made to that structure in addition of the structure to the rear. And then again, Mr. Montana will be testifying both as an engineer and as our planner. That's an overview of the application, so Chris. So I'd like to call upon Mr. Vanciella, who is the owner of the property and representative of the landscaping company.
Please raise your right hand. Do Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, and your address.
Christopher Bianciella, Bianciella, 8 Wall Street, Maine, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bianciale, you've heard my opening statement. You've obviously gone through this once before the planning board, but give the board a little bit of a background on the nature of your business, what you intend to use this property for, and then we can discuss why you want to introduce the residential component.
So we are a design-build firm dealing with the high-end residential exterior construction. 15 employees, we operate hours of 6 in the morning till about 7 at night, depending on the year. All of our work is off-site. We don't really do any kind of manufacturing. We build stuff on the various job sites.
And for this particular piece of property, describe a little bit of what your development plans are.
So we were looking to relocate our operations, have our main office, and have a storage garage attached to that main office to have the day-to-day happen application. The employees showing up in the morning, going into the company vehicles, either going to the job, coming back, and leaving to go home. On site, the parking of the pickup trucks, things like that, some light storage inside the building. The application also asks for accessory buildings, accessory structures, storage sheds. We'd like to put hand tools, loose, light equipment in each of those sheds, not to store everything in a big open garage. So we can separate it per crew, keeps everything nice and neat and organized.
And then, with respect to the improvements to the site, obviously you've been in the business. Describe briefly what you intend to do by way of, I know Mr. Lansapane will explain in more detail, but the landscaping and improvements.
So we like to renovate the site. It's been derelict for some time. 6-foot fence around the perimeter. The structure, the main structure is fronting Morris Ave. We'd like to renovate that in total compliance and what's going on in the downtown. Steve mentioned I've been in direct contact working with Beth Lippman closely to improve the streetscape to conform to everything that's going on in the future plans of the downtown. Looking to add a lot of landscape component to that streetscape. Being that 6-foot fence would be set back somewhat as not to be in front of the building, so we'll have a nice planted bed to add a lot of curb feel to the roadway. Yeah.
And then, talk about now the residential component that you wanted to introduce into this plan, which was not part of our presentation and approval before the planning board.
Yeah, prior, it wasn't really in the business model, it was more of an afterthought. The business was possible to expand or possible office storage on the second floor of the existing structure. Since then, some other business plans have come into play. We do a lot of emergency services, we do, especially in winter time, we do snow and ice radiation for a lot of retail, medical buildings, things like that. So it's good to have someone pretty much on call at a moment's notice. We do a lot of emergency excavation for water main break, things like that. So to have someone living on the property helps all that work.
And I know in our discussions in the review letter, this would be, and we would not have an objection to limiting it to employees of your company as opposed to just a rental property.
That's right, I'm looking to rent it out to the public. It's really more of a benefit of a perk for an employee to have that situation in turn, be available for immediate services. I'm not looking for public rental.
And then also, I know as part of the plan, and this is part of the approval, again, from the planning board, that it will include the access to the rear. Explain why that was important and any work that the governing body is getting that.
Yeah, in fact, it's Sam Martini was involved. The access was approved by the township committee back in 2018, August. This way, you would be entering more sound traffic. Property's on a pretty aggressive turn, off the blind turn. And to have any vehicular traffic entering and exiting on that turn is not, good, even if it's only a right-hand situation, which it would be, a right-hand turn situation. So we came up with a plan to gain access through the municipal lot using the driveway to get onto Moab.
And we'll supply that, I know we have, the email chain, but we'll supply the council and professionals.
Will that be one way then? Would that be considered one way or two-way, traffic on the gravel drive?
Two ways.
Like bunch in the morning, bunch in the afternoon, that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, not everything is all at once.
And you've had an opportunity, I know we've reviewed the letters that came from both the engineer and planner. Any problem complying with any of those terms and conditions?
No, there's no problem with either of the comments or recommendations.
And essentially, from your standpoint, the application that is before the zoning board this evening, other than the residential component and adding the shed to the crew, is essentially the same as any other plan. And all the conditions that were part of that approval of this board is, I understand, this application would carry over and be imposed by this board.
That's correct.
I have no further questions at this time.
Does any member of the board have any questions for?
I have a question. When you applied 2 years ago, you had the same size business, same amount of employees, using that 15 people, that are the bigger or smaller thing?
No, pretty much the same. I mean, it's a seasonal thing, so more than the same.
And was snow removal, is that a new line business for you, or that's been something you've been involved in?
It's not a new line of business, but there's accounts that we have only changed every year, contract to contract. So it's every year, it's different scope of work. That's
Where are most of your employees though?
Elizabeth, Newark, Springfield, that's Sussex County.
Okay, and you say that the main need for this apartment is, there's nothing done on, there's no, they drive there, they park, they go off to their jobs, right, they come back, they go home. Nothing's being fabricated there. So, and how do you envision, is this a full-time resident, or this is just an emergency apartment?
No,
Full-time. Is it a full-time family that lives there?
it would be, it is. Depends on, I don't want to block it to a family or not a family, but it could be, yes.
It's a 3-bedroom, right?
Yeah. Some small repairs will be done on site. So just to put out manufacturing.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just, it changes the nature of the application, to go to change the use of it to residential from just what it was before. So I'm trying to understand, really the need for a 3-bedroom apartment.
But it is that now. I mean, it's not, that's the way it exists. So whether it's one person living there or employee, that's what it is. That's what
Is the house vacant now? Is the house vacant?
I'm sorry, no. No, someone's there now.
So you said you would be parking your company's vehicles on site,
On site?
correct? For parking, you will be parking your vehicles on site.
Yes.
And there are a requisite number of spaces for your company vehicles and whatever vehicles a family may have.
Most of my employees are.
Are not
Yes,
car
sir.
users, are not car drivers, I guess?
Correct. So there's not big demand for parking and.
Sure.
Or 5 to 5.
We meet all the, we do meet the parking for both the
Okay.
residential.
And it is ADA compliant?
Yes.
My only other question about parking, do you envision some of your employees using the municipal parking? If there's 15 people and there's residents and there's 8 parking spots, I'm just thinking about how the parking would work with all the municipal
Most of
parking.
the cars that we would ever have is 4 or 5. They typically come together.
Do some of your employees actually take home the work vehicles and then come back, or?
2 of them, actually.
And, what type of materials, are there materials that'll be stored in the barn?
Not readily. If there is a material that for some reason can't go to the site, it would come there temporarily stored, and 98% of our material would be right to the site. There's a specialty, FedEx boxes or something like that, so that may get lost on the job site. I would send it to the next small storage.
So it could be stored within the building, wouldn't be stored outside.
Yeah, tile, something that I wouldn't want to be exposed to elements, left on a job site, something like that.
Are there any other questions from the board on this witness?
I have 2 questions.
Yep.
I had the benefit of being part of the planning board application 2 years ago, so I'm somewhat familiar with the case. And the statement of principal points that you provided with the application was, I think, fairly similar, if not exact, to the last application. And I thought it would probably be helpful to the board to describe the nature of the employees, simply because you included that there'd be 1 administrative employee on site and 3 technical supervisors. So really, your on-site employees out of the 15 are probably 4, is that correct?
Yeah, not even that. Now it's 1 full-time office manager, that would be the property. A second that may be there maintaining the property, some light repairs, maybe 60% of the time. Only one supervisor that may be in the office, let's say, or manager or something like that. So it's light use as far as mostly, if not all, will be on our job sites.
And then the majority of your other employees, are they even coming to the site on Sundays, or are they coming to the office, or are they, transient?
It varies. Some do go directly to the job. Most come to the office, to the yard, to the center.
Okay.
And then
Okay. And then my other question, I was confused about the sheds, the 4 sheds in the rear of the property. They're covered sheds, they're like a normal, like a shed you have in a residential district?
exactly.
Okay, I thought they were like landscape nets, like, so they're covered. I just wanted to clarify, because I did miss that, thinking that they were uncovered. There's no accessory structures, permitted in a non-residential zone, which is non-residential, so you would require another bulk variance for that. But we could loop that in here, I missed it.
It should be part of this application.
It is part of the application now, it's gonna be required. So I just wanted to make it clear to the board that there must be another request, for a C variance for accessory structures. I just missed it in my memo.
Okay. Can you, if you know, can you walk us through this? So, was it previously at one point zoned residential? Now it is GC?
It was GC.
Is it
it
a
was
pre-existing non-conforming use?
So it was GC, when it was before the planning board, in 2018. That's as far back as I know. I don't know the zoning history of the site beyond that. I have to assume with it being a long Morris Ave that it's probably been the GC zone for a pretty long time. And so when it was occupied by a resident use as a residential use, it was a pre-existing non-conforming use on the site. I don't know what the township regulations are as far as abandoning a use and then reestablishing one. When it was before the planning board, it was permitted use in the zone, in the GC zone, what he was requesting. The residential portion of the application that we see here tonight was unknown at the time. It was not being proposed. So it was going as a permitted use before the planning board at that time. So everything that was approved was as of right. Right now, what they're asking for is simply the D variance for the residential use, which is not permitted in the GC zone. Everything else, the office use was permitted as part of the planning board application.
Understood.
And if the variance is granted, that whole property becomes eligible for residential use.
Not the whole property, specifically condition that the upper floor of the first floor office, second floor residential would be restricted to a 3-bedroom apartment. My recommendation would be that it would not be rented to the public, it would not be advertised, it would not be used for Airbnb, it would simply be used for employee use.
And another thing we want to clarify, Mr. Lynn's comment, that when we talk about the vehicles there, as with the prior approval, they'll be stored in, and that's the purpose of that the structure too. Which if you could, they will be parked inside, not out in that parking area. So if you-
We like to keep their pickup trucks inside so they're not exposed to the weather. Part of the reason for the barn, or pole barn, garage, and part of the reason for we're looking for a little extra space, that's not to jam up that garage, vehicles and tools, whatever else we do inside there.
And the landscaping that you propose between the fence and the landscaping would buffer that area.
Yeah, we are proposing a tree line around as much of the property as we can get, not interfering with existing vegetation, bordering the neighbors, to set the property, enhance it.
It would be right turn only on Morris Avenue?
It will be.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
No, right turn only on exiting the site, Morris.
Is the mixed-use building and the storage structure looked at as two principal uses on the lot? And does the code, speak to
So
principal uses?
technically, because they're proposing that the pole barn be attached to the existing building, it's not an accessory building, and it's part of the principal building because it is attached. I looked into that.
Thank you. Okay.
And again, further to clarify, this is a very limited use of residential, and no problem in limiting it to the employees or employee family as indicated.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
Would you be okay with imposing, if crafted by council, a deed restriction to that effect?
Sure.
Or they take the resolution and record that as running with the land.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that have questions specifically for this witness? There will be an opportunity at the end for any comments as a whole, but if there are any members of the public that have questions for this specific witness. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to now call upon our architect, Mr. Anthony Ercolino.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth? Could you please state your name and address? Spell your last name, please.
Anthony Ercolino, E-R-C-O-L-I-N-O, apartment in Passing Ercolino Architect, located at 1320 Lair Avenue, in Ocean, New Jersey.
And Mr. Ercolino, if you could briefly give the board your credentials, area of expertise, license you hold, and whether you've been qualified before boards as a professional architect.
I have. I went to Pratt Institute, graduated in 1987, got licensed in 92. I've been part of Passing Ercolino since 98, and yes, I have testified before on the board, not this one.
And your licenses are in full force and effect?
Yes, in New Jersey only.
Thank you. Any objections to qualifying this witness? Okay, you are qualified.
Mr. Ercolino, you've heard my opening statement, the testimony of the applicant. You could take us through and there's a traveling mic over there if you want to use that. What's proposed by way of improvements to, maybe a touch on the condition of the existing structure and then what's proposed by way of improvements.
Well, I guess part of the.
Do you have the
part of
microphone?
You grab the
If you
mic.
could just grab the mic.
Part of the problem with this building was the connection to the pole barn. And the rear of the structure had some smaller additions. There was an entrance coming in the back. There was a bathroom back there, none of which were really very good or structurally sound. They are part of what is going to be taken off. And then, again, we reconstructed this small portion back here. We actually added only about 70 square feet of additional footprint compared to what was already there and that had to be coming off. So part of the reason for the length or the area of that was we needed to fit in, here's where that back bearing wall is here, we needed to fit in a toilet room. So an accessible toilet room. So in terms of handicap accessibility, there are certain sizes we need to abide by. So that's where that 6-foot addition came from, so that we could fit the bathroom in there. And like I said, there's a portion of it in here that's already there that, again, had a bathroom in it and an entrance that we're going to take off and then reconstruct that area properly.
And then as far as that connects into the whole barn that was part of the previous application?
Yes, and that connects into the pole barn.
There are a few steps that there's a transition to the grades of the floors.
Yeah, there's a set of stairs. You go through the office space. There's a doorway, leads to a landing, and then steps down to the floor of the pole barn.
How many steps? I can't see from over there.
I'm showing 7.
And then as far as the facade improvements, if you point to that.
Yes, I know the drawings that you have don't show the stucco or the stone or the siding on it, and I apologize. I prepared 10 copies of this drawing, had them all folded, signed, and sealed, and I left them in my office. So you can have this one if you'd like.
Well, why don't we mark that, since that,
Yeah.
as George was about to point out, if we could mark that as A1, because that's not part of the set that was submitted to today's date. I have one smaller set that you emailed that.
Yeah.
Yes, around.
Actually, that one doesn't even have I put some verbiage on there on this one. That one didn't have it on it, but
We'll go with that.
go with this one. Yeah.
So if you could take us through the elevations and describe what changes you added.
Okay, well, on the front portion, all around the base of the building on the 3 sides, up to the pole barn, we're going to have a stone base on there. In the front portion of the building that sticks forward, I guess you would call it the old porch, or whatever was back in whenever the building was built. That portion is stucco, and that's really the storefront portion of the building where you would come and enter in. That's, again, covered in stucco on the 3 sides, and then the rest of the building is a 4-inch clapboard vinyl. We also put some surrounds around the window to help dress it up some.
And you'll obviously work, as Chris had mentioned, with that, and as far as the design, I know there's criteria with respect to the street itself, but work with, and this was a commitment that we made at the planning board also, to work with committee on the design and structure, and any feedback they would have.
Sure.
And as far as, I know that's not a colored rendering, these would be muted colors, light orange.
Yeah, Chris's wish was to have earth tones, the stone be sort of a tan and brown, a tan stucco, and a tan siding.
And the
beige. Yeah.
And as far as, I think you've introduced a small sign as part of this, the elevation.
Yes, there's an existing window And directly underneath that window, we put a sign in there, it's 4 feet wide by 30 inches tall, so it's about 10 square feet. Falls within the 10% allowable in that facade of that wall, of that one wall there, of that area.
I have no further questions of Mr. Corlino. Oh, other than from an architectural standpoint, any problem complying with any of the terms, conditions outlined in either the planner's letter or the engineer's review?
I don't see any.
Okay, great. I have no further questions of Mr. Corlino at this time.
Thank you. Forgive me if you addressed this before, but I know that our professional had asked in her planning letter whether or not there's a separate entrance to the residential, or
Yeah,
would that be
once you
accessed?
enter in front, there is an entry vestibule, and then it goes into two different entrances. There's an entrance that gets you to the stairway to go up, and then an entrance that goes into the office space. But it's within the vestibule interior.
The
And again, it's the,
roof leaders and gutters, that's my concern. So you had some of the existing residents, now we have some more with the pole barn. Do we have a plan that shows where they are or how they're?
I don't have anything related to the pole barn. Maybe the engineer has something related to that. In terms of the building, we don't have much different than what's already there in terms of the downspouts. I don't show them on here, but I can, if somebody wishes. I can put them back on there. I just need to find out where they are currently and where we want to put them to. You have them worked out?
We'll have Mr. Lance.
Great.
Okay.
Sorry, so just going back, so in the vestibule, is there like a door for the staircase up, going up stairs, or is it anyone that walks in to the first floor
No,
area?
if you come in from the exterior door is here. This is an entry space or vestibule.
Yes.
There's a door
And then
that
there's,
goes into the office space.
okay,
And then there's another door that
Okay.
goes into the residential. So we'll be able to lock that door. You know, the resident can lock that door so nobody just wanders in.
thank you.
And the reason why I asked that question was, it's easier to rent out an apartment to someone else if you have an exterior exit that's completely separate. Obviously, that'd be preferable if there was no stranger, but it's less likely that someone's gonna walk into their office and walk by. It's just not conducive to someone from the outside renting an apartment. So, it actually kind of falls in line with what they're testifying in relation to, employee use only.
Okay. Do any other members of the board have questions for this witness?
I don't know if this is for this witness or not. When you have a residence, now are there issues with garage parking, right? And that would have to be addressed?
They provided parking, so their parking calculation that they provided includes not only the non-residential use, but they also provided parking for RSIS, which is the residential site improvement standards. They provided the parking for the residential use as well as part of the calculation and do comply with the total calculation required.
One question?
Sure.
This may be obvious, but there is a fire escape for the residential property.
No, there's
no back door, there's only one entrance?
the one entrance, yes.
Does that, going through that, does that meet all applicable codes and you'll have?
Yeah, I mean, we have egress windows in the bedrooms, so we can be able to get out. I mean, it meets the requirements of what we need.
And obviously with the renovation, you're gonna have, hardwired smoke detectors, carbon
Yeah.
monoxide line.
Yeah, so we'll have all that.
Any other questions? Are there any members of the public who wish to ask questions of this witness specifically? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Yeah, I'd like to call upon Mr. Michael Lanzapana, who is a bit under the weather tonight, so bear with him.
Quarantine.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Michael Lanzafama, that's Lanzafama. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner, licensed in the state of New Jersey, a principal of the firm of Casey and Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Monroe, New Jersey. I've been licensed as a professional engineer and land surveyor since 1984, and as a professional planner since 1985. I was the engineer and planner for the original application before the planning board, here before the Rivers Board, state, and before this.
And your license, is your license current? And just for the record, again, you had said this before, Mr. Hale, you will be testifying as a professional engineer and a professional planner? Okay. Do any of the members of the board have any objections to qualifying as witness? Excellent.
Great, thank you. Right, Mr. Lanzafama, you now take us through the existing conditions at the site, and then we can move on to what's proposed by way of improvements, address the professionals, and then we can provide the planning testimony.
Certainly. To begin my testimony, I'm going to use an exhibit which was not part of the original submission. It's an aerial exhibit showing the neighborhood. We can mark that as A2, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what I've marked as A2 is an aerial photograph from software we purchased known as Nearmaps, and it shows the existing site conditions in the area. We've outlined the property in yellow, and you can see that it's extremely unusual configuration. It's composed actually of 3 tax lots in block 206. It's lots 1, 2, and 26. And you can see from the exhibit, Morris Avenue runs along the bottom of the exhibit. To the left of the exhibit is Route 78, which is to the west. The existing structure is shown in the southeast corner of the property, and there are commercial properties all along Morris Avenue. To the northeast is the municipal parking lot. And you can see this is the intersection where the traffic light is located, and this is Caldwell Place in the lower portion of the exhibit. So you get a good sense of where the property exists, what's surrounding it, and how it kind of blends in with the downtown area. And as you know, the township's master plan has talked about it, and we've been working on a number of projects throughout the Morris Avenue corridor to revitalize and refurbish the downtown area. And we felt that this was one of the locations where that could possibly take place. My next exhibit, which would be marked as A3, is actually a colorized version of the site plan that you have in your set of plans at sheet number 3 in the site plan set. And what this exhibit shows is the property itself. The property is located in the GC zone. It has approximately 135 feet of frontage along Morris Avenue, and as it creates this kind of lazy L kind of configuration, it narrows to about 52 feet midway on the property. The lot is approximately 0.66 acres in size, so it's well in excess of the minimum lot area requirement for this GC zone. The existing structure is a 2.5-story frame dwelling that has existed on the site for decades. It certainly predates the current zoning for the property, which is the GC zone. The existing structure and associated is a paved area immediately to the west of this structure with access from Morris Avenue. The existing lot coverage is about 5,000 square feet. The topography of the site is such that it slopes from a high point of about elevation 93 at the southwest corner of the property to a low of about elevation 88 along the municipal parking area at the eastern end of the property. The property is located in the flood hazard area of Van Winkle's Brook. The flood hazard elevation, based upon the FEMA mapping, is at elevation 94.3. So the use of this property is somewhat restricted in as much as the flood hazard area pretty much encompasses the entire site. The building is elevated above the flood hazard design elevation. However, the majority of the site is not. We have applied to and received from the New Jersey Department of Transportation a road access permit to construct the driveway. One of the items that has come up in the review by the engineer and the planner is that the driveway is only 20 feet wide. In our original approval, the resolution got passed restricting the driveway, or requesting that the driveway be 18 feet wide. When we went to the DOT said, no, it's got to be a minimum of 20 feet wide for us to issue an access permit. So we did that, we made that modification, and we had worked with Mr. Disco in getting that okayed, that we widen it out another 2 feet. So based upon the limited access that we anticipate, the limited use that we anticipate of that driveway, we felt that the 20 feet was more than adequate for what we needed for this particular use. What had come up during the hearings was the ability to get this driveway out to the municipal lot so that we could utilize the intersection further to the southeast at the Caldwell Place traffic light. So that's where real activity would occur in making the left and right turn movements in and out of the site. This driveway, based upon our DOT permit, is restricted to right turn in and right turn out only. We also, as part of our DOT application, we got approval to merge the lots into a single lot. We have not recorded that deed yet. The attorneys were just finalizing documents since the property was finally closed upon. Once we get that deed prepared, it would be submitted to the tax assessor to get a new lot number, and then that would be consistent with what I believe our engineer had requested, that we addressed the fact that the lots need to be merged into a single lot and that the lot number needs to be updated. For the property itself, as far as its bulk configuration, is fully compliant with the GC zone. The proposal, as you can see, and as the architect mentioned, there's a small addition that's a reconstruction at the back of the existing dwelling that then allows the 30 by 59.5 foot pole storage barn to be constructed. Excuse me. The purpose of that structure is to house his equipment, his vehicles, so that there's no vehicles parked out into the paved area there. We are proposing 4 outdoor storage structures, 10 by 10 structures. These are typical structures you would buy at a shed company. They'll be anchored into the ground so that they're permanent in their location. And what they'll be used for is the equipment for the various crews that will be utilizing the site. And they try to isolate their equipment, so I know how my survey crews are. You don't like to touch the other guy's tools. You want to keep your own tools so that you keep them well maintained and you have them in a neat place, and that permits us to have enough storage space for the motor vehicles and the other equipment that has to be placed within the storage barn. To shield that activity from view, a 6-foot-high solid fence is proposed for the entire limit of the property. There'll be no fence in the front yard area. However, the fence would run down parallel to the parking and then come across far enough away from Morris Avenue to allow a vehicle to enter and someone to be able to open the gate without having a car backed out into Morris Avenue. And then to soften the appearance of the fence running parallel to Morris Avenue, we're proposing a boxwood hedge and then 12 green giant arborvitae along the streetscape. To enhance the area along the adjoining commercial property, we're proposing 9 red maples, shade trees, that would be planted and kind of supplement the existing wooded area that's to remain along Route 78. One of the comments made by the planner was with regard to whether or not we meet the intent of the streetscape ordinance with regard to street trees. There are 3 existing shade trees along Morris Avenue that are, one's 24, one's 38, one's 32 inches in diameter. So they're pretty large trees that exist along there. So we felt that in concert with what we were proposing in front of the fence area, and what Chris was going to propose is some annual plantings in front of the foundation to really beautify the streetscape. We felt we met the intent of that section of the ordinance. The improvements with regard to the pavement results in an increase of about 6,000 square feet of impervious coverage. To mitigate that, we're installing 4 dry wells in the back edge of the property, and what we have is we have the entire paved area graded towards that. We'll have a catch basin located atop the dry wells, and then all the roof water would be piped down through the gutters and then down through leader drains into the dry wells. That's depicted on sheet 4, which is the grading plan. At least we show the roof drains for the storage building. We did not show them on the building itself, but we would add that. We had worked that out with Mike on the last
Is there
application.
an overflow pipe for the drainage well?
No, they're just gonna, what they would do is they would bubble out and then just sheet flow across. There's a somewhat of a swale located along that north boundary line right at the toe of the slope for the 78 embankment that exists there. And that actually runs all the way back down to Van Winkle Brook, directly into the brook. We've made our application to the DEP for our flood hazard permit. That is pending. We've had preliminary conversations with the reviewers at DEP. They don't see any major obstacles with regard to our development, because the way it's designed is this type of use is probably one of the few uses that can be located in this flooding area. The pole barn itself has flood vents located on it to allow flood waters to move in and out. The surface of the parking area is below the flood hazard design elevation, and you are allowed to do that, provided that you minimize that to the greatest extent possible and post the appropriate flood warning signs, which we have proposed to do. One of the comments in the engineering memorandum with regard to signs is that the handicap sign, instead of putting it on a post, is to mount it right to the fence, which makes a lot of sense, so that it's not an additional obstruction. So we're going to be happy to do that. Lighting for the project, we're proposing LED light fixtures. They're mounted on 18-foot-high poles. There's 2 fixtures, one located along Morris Avenue, the other along 78. And then there's several fixtures mounted about 12 feet high along the storage building. There are 2 fixtures there, and they give us adequate lighting without overkill. It's not, you're not going to see any sky glow or anything to that effect. So I think from a site plan perspective, I think we've have everything addressed with regard to our DOT permits, our DEP permitting. The only other permit, once we get all our approvals in place, would be our soil erosion and sediment control certification from Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. As far as the variances go that we are seeking and the existing nonconformities that exist on the site, the front setback of the existing structure is at 13.88 feet. And under the GC zone, we're required to set the building at the average of the buildings within 200 feet. And that average calculated out to be 12.86 feet. So it's very close. It's only a foot variation, but it's an existing condition. There's no plan to modify the building in any way. In other words, pushing it closer to the street. We just felt that that wasn't practical, so we felt that the existing nonconformity could continue. And the planning board had concurred with that at our prior hearing. The other one was with regard to the driveway, and I think we spoke to that. That's a design waiver. We'd like to leave it at the 20 feet. That's what the DOT accepted. We felt that that was adequate for the type of use that we were proposing. The new wrinkle that was different from what was presented at the planning board was the 4 accessory structures, which under your ordinance 35-15.5B7 states that no accessory structure is permitted in any non-residential zone. And we feel that there's a real benefit in allowing us to do this and deviate from that standard because it creates a more aesthetically pleasing environment, and as much as the equipment is being stored in a safe, clean location, it's out of sight, it's protected, and it provides for more space for the construction vehicles to be stored, again, also out of sight. So we don't see that as having a significant impact on your zone plan or the neighborhood. So we feel that that is an appropriate request in this particular situation and with this type of use. With regard to the apartment, which is the D1 variance and why we're primarily here before this board, we have to establish some special reasons and to meet the positive criteria. We have to show how this project advances some of the goals of the municipal land use law. In my opinion, some of the purposes that are advanced by this application is A, to guide the appropriate use or development of lands in a manner that will promote the public health, safety, moral, and general welfare. And G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of residential and commercial uses. And finally, I, to promote a desirable visual environment through development techniques and good civic design and arrangements. The overall site, as you all know, is not the prettiest site in the area, and the major goal and objective of this community is to revitalize your downtown, and we see this as an opportunity to do that. It advances that goal and that that development concept that the master plan has envisioned for this area for some time now. And we think that the addition of the one resident into this building, making it a mixed-use building, is not at all out of character, which, as you know, the planning board has approved a number of other mixed-use buildings a little further to the east. And to demonstrate that the site is particularly suited is because of its location in that downtown corridor. Its location and its close proximity to the municipal lot provides for easy access, and in my opinion, I don't see having a residence in this particular location, and with the conditions that we've indicated that we would applied to it, such as only being utilized by employees of the operation, it gives us the added benefit, as Chris pointed out, of a rapid response in the event of an emergency, whether it's a water main break or snow removal. Having a member of the staff immediately on call to react certainly helps considerably. So I don't see any substantial detriment to the public good. I see no substantial detriment or impairment of the intent and purpose of your zone plan. And why do I say that? Because in my opinion, the site will be redeveloped and be substantially conforming use. The primary use, the office operation, and the storage barn are consistent with the zoning. Adequate parking is provided. 8 cars are required under the zone requirement for office, storage, and an apartment, and 8 cars are being provided. The existing streetscape is being enhanced with new plantings, improve aesthetics through building rehabilitation, and if you look at the FAR, you can see how minimal the intensity of the use here is. FAR is a metric of intensity of use. We're only at 11.1%, where 100% is permitted under the ordinance. And finally, why isn't an impairment to the master plan? Because I think it keeps the commercial zone vibrant and vibrant. I think that it is consistent with some of the other ideas and concepts that the township has envisioned for this corridor. And that's all I have.
And just again, from a planning, engineering standpoint, any problem complying with the terms and conditions? I believe you touched on it already, the review letters that we received.
None whatsoever.
Thank you. I have no further questions of Mr. Lanzafama at this time.
Thank you. Do any members of George?
Two questions. Overall, I think this is nice to have in the center of town. Do the sheds have any impact on the ability to manipulate vehicles in and out of the parking spots?
No, that is why we created that large area that exists on the site. I believe that's one of the questions that one of your reviewers had mentioned, is why that paved area. And that's so vehicles parked along the streetscape can back up and maneuver appropriately. Vehicles can get in and out of the garage space. So that's why we have that large open paved area. With them nestled to the north, I think it should be fine.
And then my other question, which was probably addressed in the previous application, is how does the driveway intersect with the parking lot? Do we lose any spots, or is there a right-of-way there?
I believe the way they reconfigured it, I'm trying to remember, we worked it out with Sam. I think we lost 1 parking spot.
I'm just concerned about the parking lot
Yeah.
because of what's going on downtown. Hopefully, we'll have lots and lots of people in parking.
Exactly.
We're not going to have a negative impact.
Right.
The expected traffic flow is going to be out into the right.
I'm sorry.
The expected traffic flow is going to be out into the right and not to that lot.
Well, it's going to come around to the intersection and then make the left or right turn at the traffic light at Caldwell Place.
Oh, either way, or out.
Or, yeah, a vehicle could come out and make this right turn, sure. We can go either way. There'll be no restriction on, the only restriction on this driveway is right in, right out only.
Will there be any chemicals stored on site? Will there be any chemicals stored on site?
No.
So the gasoline containers for the trucks or machinery, anything?
I have 2 questions. Thank you for your testimony in regards to the street tree. I missed that there are existing shade trees along the right-of-way. I thought the arborvitae were in place of the street trees, which is highly unusual, but I think that having the shade trees that exist there today that are quite mature,
Right.
and having arborvitae as another layer to kind of soften the site, soften the use is perfectly acceptable. As far as the storage sheds, how how high are they? How tall?
I'm sorry, say again?
Storage sheds in the rear, how tall are they?
I believe these are 12 feet. The storage building is just under 18 feet.
Okay. And are the storage sheds, I can't remember if you mentioned if they're elevated above the flood.
No, no, they're not.
And then you had also mentioned as part of the benefit of the storage sheds to make sure that there's no materials or outdoor storage. Would you be willing to comply, or the applicant be willing to comply with the condition? It's my recommendation that there be no outdoor storage of any materials on the site.
I believe he had at the last hearing, and Chris, I believe you will now.
And my other recommendation to the board, on if there is any approval, would be a condition that none of the parking spaces be used for long-term storage of vehicles or equipment, so that they are free to be used by the employees and the residents.
No problem with any of those conditions.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions by the board? Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak or ask any questions of this witness? No. Okay, please come up.
Just state your name and address, please.
Kathleen Amoroso, A-M-O-R-O-S-O. I'm here on behalf of Ken Gruskin and Gruskin Group. That's 294 Morris Avenue.
That's the office building immediately to our east.
So the first thing, Ken's out of town, he asked me to come on his behalf. We would like to express our support for the project.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. There's an opportunity to speak later on. Just please ask questions.
So for the engineer,
Thank
we
you.
just wanted to address your proposed drainage, because I know there was some clearing of vegetation, and so, we are experiencing some flooding, and we just want to make sure that the engineers, in their proposal, there's not going to be runoff or standing water on our property.
Correct. The way we have it designed is that everything is flowing into us, away from your property. The dry wells are located just beyond the storage building, and any overflow from those tanks would be taken out via a swale that exists on the north end of the property. So it shouldn't come back towards you at all once we finish. Correct. It'll come down. Actually, it comes all the way around and hits Van Winkle's Brook.
And then, as far as the trees and stuff,
Yeah, that would be me.
yeah, okay. So, we just wanted to, we appreciate providing the trees and the landscaping. But we just wanted to mention, we do have a tree back there, and when we were looking at the plans, we were just wondering if Chris would work with us, with not causing any effect to the tree, our existing tree.
Well, certainly, there's a tree, an existing tree back towards the northeast, right behind your building, I see. And then there's a few along our common line.
Talking about the one in the back, near.
We'll work with you on that. Make sure that when we plant our trees, we don't have a negative impact on that tree.
Okay.
That's not an issue.
And then when we were looking at the statement, chain link fence, but the drawings say.
It's a solid
it needs
fence.
to be solid.
Yes.
And those are gonna go from behind?
It's going to start at the back of the building, come around, go all the way along the northern boundary, come back, and then parallel to your line, down and tie back into the structure.
Okay, and along the side of
Yep.
it. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Okay, thank you.
We have no further witnesses at this time. Certainly anyone that's testified so far is available to the board of the public has further questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak at this time regarding the application?
This time you need to be sworn. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
And please state your name and address again.
Kathleen Amoroso, Amoroso. You want my home address? Or the?
No, you can give the business.
Yeah, so the business address is 294. And we just wanted to, as the next door neighbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
And address?
Michael Disco, 100 Mountain Avenue. I'm not here to take any, make any recommendation on the merits of the application. Just wanted to address a couple of things. I think your professionals did an excellent job on the application. As far as the connection to the parking lot, somebody had a question, which is an excellent question. Mr. Lanzafama answered as best as he could. Sam and the applicant did conceptually agree to that connection. The connection should be limited to 2 parking spaces lost. Sam has a plan which can recover those 2 parking spaces. I think it should be a condition that whatever the costs are, whether it's just striping or construction to recoup those 2 lost spaces, should be on the burden should be on the applicant. I think, and I hope I'm not repetitive, I think the planner had addressed something in terms of the outdoor storage. That's great. I think in terms of the residential use for this business, I think I would allow the board attorney to protect the municipality in that if this tenant leaves the site, we wouldn't want that residential use necessarily to continue without some sort of purview beyond the administrator. So it should come to a board if there's a residential use that's going to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No objection to any of those items that Mr. Disco brought up.
Anyone wish to comment, deliberate?
And again, just briefly by way of summation, I think that this is a great improvement. It's property. Go by it all the time. It certainly is in need of the enhancement that's going to be given here. Having someone in the business and the design and landscape business will certainly ensure that will be done very nicely. Nice improvements to the structures there. Good buffering. It's great to have. How often do you have, even the previous hearing, neighbors come out and support? It seems like when you go, it's only people that don't want to see something happen. And I appreciate, again, the work of your professionals and Mike coming out tonight. And we look forward to the board granting this application, having this move forward. We have, again, no problem with either the deed restriction that you had mentioned, and we can include in that, and able counsel can craft a resolution to ensure those limitations. And we have no problem with that running with the land, and therefore giving, can't sell it and somebody say, I didn't know about it. They're going to pick it up in a deed. So thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you. Okay. I think this is a great project for the area. I agree with I heard the planning testimony. I agree with the positive criteria being met. I don't see that there would be any detriment on this. I would like to, if we can, walk through the conditions that we would be placing on entertaining an approval. One, starting with complying with the conditions set forth in our professionals' reports. Two, can we walk through them?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Here's what I have.
Okay.
Applicant agrees to all comments and recommendations from the board's engineer and planner. The applicant agrees to all conditions from the original planning board approval. The residential portion will be for an employee of the applicant only, which, and the grant of that variance will run with the land to be recorded either by deed or in some other fashion to put it in the chain of title. That's 3, 4. The applicant will work with and follow the design standards of the Business Improvement District. There will be no outdoor storage of any equipment, and no vehicles, no trucks will be parked permanently in the parking spaces that are designed for automobiles. Per Mr. Disco, applicant will cover the cost to the township for replacing the 2 parking spaces that are being lost due to the access easement or whatever the arrangement was, and the residential use will lapse if it is not used. I think that, and then we have a pre-existing nonconformity in the front yard setback. They're seeking a design waiver for the driveway, a variance for the 4 storage sheds, which are accessory structures, which are not allowed, and of course the D1 residential use variance.
Are we going to restrict residential portions of the upstairs? I mean, that's something.
Yes, that will be as part of the deed restriction, or however we will be recording it. The residential use will be restricted to the 2nd floor. Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve on the following 8 or 9 conditions.
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Lawfer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schnur?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Mr. Sada?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Cohen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.